in line. Oh, you guessed it. The tech monopolies. They did their job. They shut down one side, protected the other, and now it's time for the reward. And here's the reward. In one of his first acts as president-elect, Joe Biden named a man called Ron Klain to be his chief of staff. Now, Klain worked for Biden before. That's the story that you've read. Oh, he's a close Biden ally. That's why he's got the job. But that's not why he got the job. Ron Klain is also a lobbyist for big tech. 4 years ago, he joined the executive council of Silicon Valley's lobbying arm in Washington. Oh, starting to make sense? Ron Klain was not chosen for his success as a public servant. We know that because last year he acknowledged that the Obama administration, where he was a senior official, totally mishandled the swine flu pandemic, the one that came before this one. Quote, "It's purely a fortuity that this isn't one of the great mass casualty events in American history," Ron Klain conceded with admirable bluntness, we'll say. Quote, "It had nothing to do with us doing anything right. It just had to do with luck." Okay, so he admitted that. But what's amazing is despite admitting this, mismanaging a pandemic, somehow Ron Klain managed to become Joe Biden's advisor on the coronavirus pandemic. And from the first day, he got that wrong too. Watch Ron Klain on television this year in late January explain that President Trump's ban on travel from China, where the virus came from, was a very bad idea.
Would you ban Chinese travelers from arriving in the United States?
I wouldn't. I think that's premature. I think it's very important exchange, very important for trade and tourism.
Oh, it's very important for exchange and trade. Oh, Silicon Valley's bottom line. You can't annoy or inconvenience China. That was Klain's position, and then he kept going. On February 28th, he tweeted this, quote, "On COVID-19, if you want to do something useful today, go to Chinatown, buy a meal, go shopping. The virus attacks humans, not people of any ethnicity or race. Fear is hurting Chinese American-owned businesses baselessly. Let's fight the disease and let's fight prejudice." Now, keep in mind, at the moment he wrote that in February, there were no attacks against Chinese Americans because of the coronavirus. This is a deeply decent, non-racist country. So why was he saying this? Funny, the Chinese government was saying almost exactly the same thing. If you're worried about the coronavirus, you're a bigot. Got it. But again, it doesn't matter whether Ron Klain was right about how to handle the coronavirus. What matters is that Ron Klain is on the right side of Silicon Valley. As we told you before, if you want to understand what's happening now, keep in mind, this is not an incoming presidential administration. No, this is a corporate takeover of the country. They paid for the campaign. They plan to assert full control. At this point, Joe Biden's transition advisors include executives from Uber, Visa, Capital One, Airbnb, Amazon, the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, and the nonprofit run by ex-Google CEO Eric Schmidt are also on the list. Are you surprised? No, you're not. According to an analysis by the Wall Street Journal, at least 40 members of the Biden transition teams announced earlier this week were or are registered lobbyists. Oh, and speaking of transitions, Stars and Stripes newspaper reported today that one of Biden's key Pentagon officials will be a transgender veteran, chosen to defend the country, maybe on the basis of identity. Because in 2020, corporatism is highly woke, the wokest. They're hoping their wokeness will distract you from their plundering. And it's working. Now, you won't be shocked to learn that the government of China looks on at all this and is highly pleased. A weak, divided America, obsessed with narcissistic identity politics, is good for them. And by the way, very different from them. In the United States, we're told your identity is the most important thing. They don't think that in China. In China, they think their country is the most important thing. And that's why they're winning. And that's why they're very pleased to see more identity talk, childish as it is. Its very childishness is its appeal to the Chinese, because it suggests that we're buffoons. This week, the state-run Communist Party newspaper in China, the People's Daily, celebrated Joe Biden's ascendance by mocking the sitting president. Ha ha, the paper tweeted, along with a laughing emoji, as the news networks called it for Biden. There was deep relief to see this in China. The markets corrected too. On election day, markets in China crashed when returns showed Donald Trump leading in the swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. The Chinese currency plunged more than 1% 1.4 actually, against the dollar early Wednesday morning. It was the largest single-day drop in nearly 3 years when they thought Trump was going to get reelected. And then when the news changed, that changed too. Chinese markets immediately recovered when votes started coming in for Joe Biden. Was there a connection? You bet there was. The Chinese government is happy now. Should you be happy? Let's see. Joe Biden has announced that as president, he will not deport a single illegal alien from this country in the first 100 days. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what they've done, it doesn't matter whether they were convicted or not. That would include rapists and murderers. Literally, they can all stay here. Now that's great news if you're Silicon Valley. They pushed for this. The tech companies wanted this because they rely on cheap labor. But for the rest of us, what's the upside exactly? And by the way, if you live anywhere along the southern border, good luck to you. And by the way, don't bother locking your doors or pining for a border wall or thinking that immigration restrictions might improve your life, because if you think that, you're a bigot. Joe Biden explained it to us over the summer.
I'll be a commander-in-chief who makes sure that our National Guard and their families have the support and resources they need. Not one who diverts more than $1 billion in National Guard funding to pay for a border wall. Taken out of the National Guard for a border wall. It's not really keeping us safe.
Yeah, the military shouldn't be used to protect the country. They should be in Syria doing whatever they're doing in Syria. Protecting America? That's unconstitutional. You think that's absurd? You think he couldn't do it? As president, Joe Biden could do that on day one with executive action. It wouldn't require the Congress to weigh in at all. But if Democrats wind up controlling the Senate, they will do much more than that. They will give amnesty to every illegal alien in this country. That's more than 20 million people. And they'll be on a pathway to citizenship immediately. We know that because Joe Biden's already called for it.
Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship.
11 million. That's how you know they're lying. Because no one who knows anything about the subject thinks it's 11 million. No, it's over 20 million. It's over 20 million citizens in one day. That's a big change. It's the biggest change of our lifetimes. But it's just the beginning. This show has obtained exclusively a memo from the Glover Park Group, that's a lucrative lobbying shop in Washington with ties to Joe Biden. The memo outlines Biden's chief priorities. Those would include financial aid for illegal aliens, a big increase in refugee resettlement, more taxpayer funding for critical race theory indoctrination. Quite a list of priorities. Who is for this stuff? Well, America's unhappy rich ladies. They're the ones who got Biden elected, and they love this stuff. It's no cost to them. It makes them feel virtuous, so they're going to get it. They're Joe Biden's base. They're in control now. But wait a sec, you might be asking, what do policies like that do for everyone else? How does resettling refugees in the country and critical race theory make the middle class more secure, happier, richer? How does it put your kids through college? It doesn't. It doesn't do anything for anyone else. But who cares? Those people didn't vote for Joe Biden, and they're not getting anything. Charles Hurd is the opinion editor over at the Washington Times. We're always happy to have him. Charlie, great to see you tonight. So I'm looking at these priorities, and by the way, there may be others. No one seems to be able to get close to Joe Biden, our president-elect, to ask him what exactly, as president, he's going to do. But from this list, and the Glover Park Group is a pretty connected operation, I would say, this does seem like a very specific kind of boutique lifestyle liberalism appealing only to about 10,000 unhappy rich ladies in like 9 zip codes. Doesn't seem like a national agenda to me.
No, it's not, and of course that's the trick here. That's why the secrecy is so vitally important, because not only is that something that was not going to appeal to regular voters across the country, it's not going to appeal to Democrat voters. This stuff is poison within the Democratic Party, and that is how Donald Trump won in the first place. He cleaned the slate among Republicans, and then he took over part of the Democratic Party because it was a very simple strategy. He looked at all of these policies you've just laid out, all of these things you've just talked about, and said, hey, you know what? Actually, enforcing our border, our southern border, that's actually probably something that might be in the top, I don't know, top 3, 4, 5 things that we should be doing at the federal government. Another thing, should we be a globalist nation, or should we look out for America first? He said, okay, let's be America first. Let's put our priorities ahead of China's. Well, this crew, and the sad thing is, and this is the thing that's so terrible about all of this, is that for so long, while Democrats have sort of led a lot of these things, Republicans have either, gotten in there with them on this stuff, or they've stood back by idly and been completely run over by him. And Donald Trump is the first guy that came along and called him out on it. And that's the secret to the guy's success.
You just got to wonder, though, I mean, Scranton Joe, and I think he actually won Scranton, according to the numbers from Pennsylvania anyway. These are not issues, it seems to me, that are going to benefit a single person in Scranton, Pennsylvania, or any other country or county that's not Malibu. So, like, shouldn't he at least think about everyone else who's not a huge donor or married to a tech mogul?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, when you talk to other Democrats, you talk to House members and things like this, they claim to represent these people. They don't represent these people. And a perfect example is you mentioned the transgender person that Joe Biden has picked to be on his transition team for DOD or whatever. What is the point of the military? Is the military supposed to be a lethal operation in which we send American troops to defend our borders and to protect our country from enemies and to kill as many enemies as quickly as possible with the fewest fatalities to our people? Is that the point of our military? Or is it supposed to be some social engineering project where we put colors and things up on a board that make us all feel good about stuff or make certain people feel good about things? The disconnect between what people like Joe Biden want out of our government and what regular normal people in this country want has never been wider, ever. And again, Donald Trump is the first guy to come along and just sort of pick out these very basic, simple things and say, hey, this is actually what regular, normal American people in Scranton want.
Couldn't agree more. Anyone who talks about identity should be immediately disqualified from service. Who cares about your identity?
Amen.
That's the least interesting thing about you. Let's talk about the country. How are you going to serve and protect the country? Your identity. It really is just the apogee of narcissism. It's really, get your head out of your butt.
It is.
Charlie, great to see you tonight.